So um, using the spreadsheet, it is very convenient for us to upload our entire setup many times actually. So whether you're doing multiple ledgers, whether you're doing multiple legal entities, multiple business units, whatever you want to define, value sets, values, everything you can upload through the spreadsheet. So that is what we'll be seeing today. So let me first log into the application and then we will see what it is. Sure. So as it loads up, we can go into the uh, functional setup manager. Okay. Now we can go two ways into this. One is through our implementation project. If you remember, we had talked about implementation project, how you can manage implementation projects, right? So you may have an implementation project already defined. So you can go into that and through the common setup, you will find there is a place through which you can upload all this. Okay. So this task is usually done right in the beginning when it's done, and they give you, they do it and then give it to you. And after that, you have all of these things which are there, right? So defining ledgers, defining all of these structures. Now you can search for them here also. Okay. And another way is you can come click on this, click on search. One is upload, one is download. Okay. So you have an upload and a download. So see this ledger, legal entities, business units. So you have a download and a upload. So you can look for ledger, legal entities, and business units. So this is the create chart of accounts, ledger, create legal entities, business units in spreadsheet. So you click on this and you save this. Okay, so this is the rapid implementation for general ledger. Save this. So once it's downloaded, So as you can see here, there are separate tabs in this spreadsheet, each for a specific piece that you are going to create. So what are the things that we'll create? We'll create the chart of accounts, the calendar, and the ledger. So for that, you have their names, currency, period frequency, adjusting periods, fiscal year start. Then you will put in the different segments that you are going to be using, what is their label, that is their purpose. You remember that day we were defining them in the system manually. So this is the short prompt and what will be the width. After this, we have the different business units that we want and their default legal entity name. Then we have the different companies and their legal entities. So here we are going to have the different legal entities along with the segments that we are going to be using, the companies. These are the natural account codes that we are going to have, and these are the financial sequences that you can enable as per your need. Now, if you want, you can read through this instruction. It tells you step by step what to do. Very well done. Okay. And then it also tells you how you can upload it back into the application. So here we will first try to load the data. There is a spreadsheet which has sample data in it. Okay. So if you double click this, the sample data file will open up with the information populated. Okay. So what we'll do is we will rename it to our name initials so that we know that it is we who had defined it. And we'll make subtle changes here and there. So we'll call it SP Infusion, and currency that we are going to be using will be USD, and it's a monthly calendar. Adjusting period we want once at year end. Fiscal year start date is when is it going to be starting. If you want the fiscal year 2020 or 2019, you can change it.
Saurabh, I
These
have a
are,
question.
yeah.
When you say adjusting periods once in a year, and in sense we have only one option at the end of the year to change all the previous transactions. Is that correct in the ledger?
Not just previous transactions. It might be that, you know, during that you have any adjust, you have closed something and you want to make certain adjusting entries during that and make any modifications to that. Or since it's a year end, so you won't have provision for, you know, doing any other transactions for prior periods except in that adjusting period.
Okay, so it happens only for the ledger, not for the sub-ledger.
Yes. It happens for the, sorry, what was that?
It happens only for the ledger, not the sub-ledger. Is it correct?
It, yeah, it is defined at the calendar level actually, and it is more appropriate for general ledger because that is where you would be making the changes
Okay,
for
so
close.
when I do the changes in the ledger, what happened to those sub-ledgers?
Yes, those you will have to again see that, or in some cases people know that yes, it's going to be out of whack. You just deal with the things at the GL level.
Okay.
So this is the calendar. Sorry, this was the name of the chart of accounts that we were going to be doing. Okay, along with this will be our ledger, currencies, the calendar, and the chart of accounts. Okay, so the chart of accounts is defined here. If you see the short prompt, and then display with this auto populated. If you want, you can have your own segments. You can change this. If you go to the business units, these are the different business units that you have in place. We will prefix it with my name initials. And the default names will again change. So these would be the legal entity names. Over here, if you see, the parent child has been defined here. The child level, this is that SP Infusion USA Corporation. This is the name of the okay. Along with this, this is the parent. So all of US, this is for Infusion USA. Then you will have SP Infusion USA. So which is like the total of SP Infusion. What does SP Infusion have? It will have SP Infusion USA corporate office and SP Infusion Napa.
So this is at the legal entity level.
This is at the legal entity. These are the legal entities, but we are defining, since it will be our companies also, we are going to have it in the company value set. These are the names of the legal entity. Official names is this IFU Infusion USA Limited, and against that you have an identifier number, okay, which is the legal entity number, which country it is registered, and what are the addresses. So all the details you are having at once, and you are going to be uploading all of that directly.
So can I go to left side, the parent free? Now 3888 is the legal entity, right?
Yeah,
And what about the SP Infusion USA then?
that is the
Enterprise,
parent.
parent. Just like an enterprise we maintain.
Correct.
And what the second level is, so what is that? SP Infusion USA corporate office. It's
Yes. So your corporate office is made up of two things. One is the
mhm.
USA corporation, one is USA headquarters.
Okay.
And SP Infusion USA is made up of SP Infusion corporate office and SP Infusion Napa.
Okay. So 3888 comes under 3800. And what is this 5,000 parent, the topmost?
That is the grand total of all infusion companies. See here, the company description is given.
Correct.
If you read with the company description, it will be easier.
Yeah. So this 5,000 is the total infusion companies available in the instance, or how? Now it is.
Correct.
How do you treat this?
That will be like whenever you want. Suppose you want the grand total of all your total transactions across the organization.
Okay.
So that is the total infusion companies.
Okay.
If you think of it,
Entire thing. Okay.
yeah. So let's say you think of the Tatas. Okay. So the Tatas, you could have the Tata Sons right at the top, total Tata Sons. You could have Tata Steel. You
Hmm.
could have Tata Motors. You could have Tata Consultancy Services, right? So within them, you could have different companies, different entities. All right. Now, these are the companies and the legal entities. Then you have the accounting, the natural accounts. So each account has a description, what type of account it is, and whether it's a parent or a child. Remember, transactions are done at the child level. Okay, parents are for roll up only. That is what you specify on the right hand side. So for each of these, you will say whether this is what type of account it is. Is it a as asset type of account? Is it cash? Is it, you have the different things defined here, different types of accounts defined here in the values. Liability account. Okay, you can look at the drop down here also, and you will see all the different accounts that are or that can be defined in a chart of accounts is mentioned here. So ideally your chart of accounts will be very detailed. You will have different types of accounts defined in your chart of accounts. So this is the listing of your chart of accounts. So if you see here, they have given us some sample values. That itself comes to around 300, around 437 values. A real one could have, 10, 12,000 values easily.
So basically, the chart of accounts is the something like a control account where you can assign each of the transaction and its type.
Correct.
Like for example, if I'm paying for a multiple vendors, I may have in my system that different chart of vendors, one for Infosys, one for Oracle, one for something like. So
Yeah.
then it will get rolled up to the expense later.
Correct. Then this is the line of business. Line of business is what are the different lines of business that you have. Could be like your business units also. These are the different business units or different lines of business that you are having internally. Cost centers, these are all your different cost centers that you have. Each cost center has a code against which you will be doing the transactions. And there will be a parent as well, and there will be a grandparent as well. Here again you have for each of these products, so these are the different products that are sold by the company.
So what is the maximum number of hierarchy you can maintain?
Usually people don't go beyond 3 or 5. 3 to 5 is the max, right? So you can have multiple. Yeah, I haven't tried out the maxing how much, but Easily up to 10th, you can definitely.
Okay.
These are your sequences that you define and the initial numbering. Okay. So in case you need to change this to different products, so here this is like a fusion. This is a company for selling audio music. So that's what these are, like modern music, romantic music, classical music, and so on. Cost centers also, you have different cost centers. In case you want to change anything, you can go ahead and change it. Okay. Now, as per this chart, as per this spreadsheet, here they have given you 6 chart of accounts, 6 segments of your chart of accounts, right? You might need another chart of accounts. So in that case, you can add another one. Okay, you can say, let's say future enterable. Okay. So you won't have anything here, so you will leave it. Now against this, you need to enter the values. If you want to enter the values, you click on this add segment sheets. So when you click on add segment sheets, you will find another sheet will open up. Another sheet gets created, okay, which is future enterable on the right hand side. Whatever name you will give, by that name it will get created, and here you can add more values for as per your need. Okay, it may not be future enterable. You could have something like project. Let's say once you, if you want a project segment in your chart of accounts, you can define it as project here. Okay, and then click on add segment sheets. When you click on add segment sheets, you will find that a project spreadsheet worksheet has got created, where you can enter all the values of the different projects against which you will be tracking the information. All right. At this point of time, I will not be defining this. I'll just live with whatever has been defined by default. And all right. So this is, once you're done, there are certain steps that you need to follow, which I mentioned here. 1, 2, 3. First step is to run the validation. So once you click on this, system is going to check for you whether all the required things are done or not. So there is a problem here. Intercompany SP infusion ledger. It can't be more than 30. And the intercompany segment, that is where it's becoming very, very big. Combination of ledger and segment. So there's a lot of big names here. So we'll have to just shorten some names. just shorten the names here and infusion. Business unit here, it should be S. Cupertino. We are left with this. Let's call it. Okay, so now the validation is successful. So you may want to look at this, or the next step is to generate the chart of accounts. Third step is to define the ledger, legal entity, and the business unit file. Now remember, as per the setup, when you define the ledger, you need your chart of accounts, you need the calendar, you need the currency, right? So that chart of accounts has to go first, has to be defined first. So that is why we have to first upload our generate chart of accounts file. So that is the one that we will first generate. Once you get it, you can store it here. So I'll just call one folder and keep all our files in this. So that would be the chart of accounts. Next, I generate the general ledger and save it over here. So now I have generated two files, the chart of accounts file and the general ledger and the legal entity business unit file. Clear so far? Just a quick summary. What did we do? We went to the application functional setup manager. We downloaded the spreadsheet for defining the chart of accounts, calendar, ledger. In that, we entered the data for the respective entities that we'll be creating as per the spreadsheets defined in the system. We picked up a sample data file which was already there and we updated it. You can also have your own values. So as you can see here, there's some amount of planning that you need to do before uploading this through the spreadsheet, right? So this is a good way to help you get organized when you are defining the enterprise structures in the system. So once this is done, we will go back to our application. Now here the next step is to upload the ledger, business, legal entities and the business unit. First time we had created this, we had downloaded it. Next we'll upload it by clicking on upload ledger, legal entities and business units. So we'll be uploading the hierarchies. No, upload the enterprise structures, Rouse, and we will okay, so we have two files. So we'll first upload the chart of accounts. Unless your chart of accounts is created, you will not be able to create your ledger. So that is why this has to go first. We'll have to give it a few minutes. It'll run through and upload everything. Okay, so now it says succeeded. We'll upload it and then we'll go and see this. So once it's done, next we'll go back to the same one once again. Again, same thing, browse. And this time we'll upload the financials common entities and then we'll submit it.
For both the things, you use the basic option as an upload business entity.
Now, while this loads up, let's go in and see how our setup looks. So if you look at the so we have our SP infos ledger that we had defined. So if you look inside that, you will find the segments have been created. Okay, and along with each of these segments, you will find the value sets and everything else has also been defined. So you have this SP infos ledger here, which is the instances from where you can have a link to the value sets. Okay, so this is the company value set. From the value set, you can look at the values. So you come to this screen and do a search and see you will find these, the ones that we indicated as parent. If you go to the right here, you will see summary is yes. Summary is yes, meaning that's a parent. Okay, and at the parent level, we will not be doing posting, will not be doing budgeting, so it has been disallowed. Only at the transactions level you will be doing the posting. So at the child level, lowest, the child levels, you have your posting and your budgeting enabled. Okay, so this is done, and then so we looked at the um, structures, the segments, the value set, and values of one of them. If you want to look at the other values, then you scroll down. And again click on values, you will be able to see the values for the line of business. Okay, now against this we have also defined our calendars, right? So you will find this is the monthly calendar that has been used. So this is the SP Infos ledger. So these are the calendars that have been defined. This 13 is your adjusting period. So if you see here, this adjusting period checkbox is enabled.
So if the Jan to December is my transaction period, and the following year Jan will be the adjusting period, or when do they keep the time for adjusting this?
Usually it is the last day,
Okay.
because you would be closing all your entries on the last day.
Okay. So that is called as an adjusting period. The
Correct. Now this calendar currencies is by default. So let's look at the next, the legal structures. So let's see if the legal entity has come through. Here we can change, we'll have to change this. So through this scope, suppose you are looking at the definition of a particular legal entity, particular legal ledger. In those cases, you would have to change the scope here by clicking on the scope and then choosing your values here. So you can say select and add. See this SP series, these are the ones that we were creating, SPIFF, SPIFF, USA, and so on. So if you click on any one, and then at the bottom you say save and close, use the button at the bottom that works best. The one at the top sometimes does not work. So here you have the name, what uh, what else is the designation, legal employer as well, that has implication on the HCM side. And it is also the payroll statutory unit. And here this is the address, okay, the legal entity address. Now you can have one primary address, but you can have multiple addresses, one primary. Similarly, legal entity registration, now you have this, so you will find this as also modified. So this is the registered name of the entity. So we looked at the reporting entity. Now let's look at the ledger. So the primary ledger is the one that will be defined first. So SP Infas US, and this is actually in process still, so not yet done. If you want to look at the business unit, you can just type it here. So manage business unit. Not yet created. The next step after defining the ledger is to specify the ledger options, which is the specify ledger options for the primary ledger, which we'll do next, but I'm waiting for that particular ledger to be done so that you can go and update it. So against this, you can see, how this was, what is the ledger, what is the chart of accounts, and which is the accounting calendar that is being used. These are the default accounting that you can define at the ledger level. So whether it is your rounding account or it is a currency balancing account. Okay, so these are defined by different account heads that you have, which you define at the ledger level. So you define them and you save it in the system. So for future transactions, anything that you're doing in the ledger, the respective accounts will be used up. Now, along with the primary ledger, you may have a secondary ledger as well. So in that case, when you're defining a secondary ledger, you may manage secondary ledger is when you define a secondary ledger, link it with your primary ledger, and then you specify the details for the secondary ledger as well, the ledger options for your secondary ledger. So similarly, you will have the default accounting information specified. Let's see if it has completed. Just easier to go and look it up there. Okay, looks like it has completed. First look at the primary ledger. So now see the both of them are now done, SP Infusion Canada and SP Infusion US. Okay, so when you're defining a ledger, if you were to define it manually, you would come here, click on this screen. It's a very simple screen. All you need is the 4 C's. You need the name, give a description, and chart of accounts, accounting calendar, currency, and the accounting method. So these are the four things that you should be defined, right? Now the ledger options that we are creating, we'll have to specify the scope. So we first change the scope to our prior ledger. So we'll have the SP ledger first. So against this ledger, which is your first open period that you want to have? Okay. How many future enterable periods are you going to have? The other day we had talked about the different status of each of the accounting periods. So one of them was future enterable, where you can enter the future transactions, future dated transactions. So at any point of time, how many future dated periods are you going to allow? So that is what it specifies. Accounting method, what is the journal language, retained earnings account, and these are the period closure things. So whatever else you need to define as per your need, you can define them. Suspense account. Now, in accounting, you're probably aware there is a concept of suspense accounting, where if usually journals that we enter in our system are balanced, right? So the debit and credit total will tally. In certain cases, you might come across a journal where the corresponding debit or the credit may be missing. Which account to credit or which account to debit may be missing. In that case, it might be helpful or it is useful to have suspense accounting. In that case, what the system will do is, system will automatically generate the debit and the credit for the missing amount and put it into this suspense account. Okay. Once in a while or at regular frequencies, you should be going to the suspense account and clearing it out, because it's not good to have any transactions which are in suspense. Suspense means you don't know which account it should go to. Okay. So that's why some companies don't allow suspense at all. They'll say we don't want any suspense, because then people will make the effort, then people will make the effort to find out the accounting information and put in a proper ledger. Santosh, you can hear us?
Yes, sir. Sorry, I was disconnected, so I have to log in
Oh,
back
okay.
due to internet.
Okay. I didn't realize that. I went on talking. So I was just talking about the suspense account here.
Okay.
Okay. Suspense account is basically the um, facility through which you can track any missing information. How you can track it? So, for example, the journals that we enter in ledger, debit and credit, have to match up, right? Our debit, total of debit and total of credit must always match, and we call it a balance journal. In case you have a account which is missing, or you receive a journal where you don't have the debit or the credit. Now it's not a balanced journal. In that case, system will not allow you to enter that journal. To overcome this issue, you can have a suspense account. What system will do is, system will put the difference amount, whatever is not tallying in the debit or credit, into that suspense account and post it. So your debit and credit will tally. Only thing is there'll be some amount lying in your suspense account, which means you don't know which account it should go to.
In general, in your experience, what are the cases where the amount will not tally? Because as soon as as part of every subledger or every uh, payable or receivable transaction, will be posting everything to the journal, right?
Mhm.
So in what cases your mismatch may happen in the transactions?
Sometimes what happens, you are sending a manual journal.
Okay.
Okay, only one account has been provided.
Mm-hmm.
The other account has not been provided. So one option is the person in general, who is in charge of GL, he will send back the journal saying that please fill in the missing information.
So only one account in the sense the credit and debit accounts, you mean to say?
Yes, either the debit or the credit.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So these are the ledger related settings that you can specify as per your need. Okay, so if you click on this manage secondary ledger, any ledgers which are related to SP infusion, you will be able to see it. Right now we do not have anything. If you want to define a primary secondary ledger for your primary ledger, you can do that. So this is going to be a primary ledger, and you can have a secondary ledger along with their chart of accounts, with their own calendar, with their different currency if required, which will be your secondary ledger. So for that secondary ledger, again, you can specify similar options, ledger options. Okay. And you can do a mapping also from your primary ledger to your secondary ledger. We'll just see how a mapping looks like. So you have one IFRS, US primary ledger, and US ISRF, which is defined in the system. Whenever you want to look in the system how something is defined, you can look at this. You can query previous definitions which are stored in the system. So if you study this, it will give you an idea about how it is being done. You will notice, only one transfer has been enabled, which is the other type. All other journal sources, you are not transferring the journals to this ledger. Only the other type of journal sources, this is the journal source and the journal category. No subledger related information is coming to the secondary ledger as per this setup. The setup will change as per your requirement. You may need to bring in some of those journals also. In that case, you will enable them to yes. You could have post journals automatically from your source ledger. Source ledger is your primary ledger. You can send all your journals automatically to your to your secondary ledger. Okay. So this is to be defined exactly as per your need, as per your requirement, the mapping between primary and the secondary ledgers. Now we'll go to our first period. Okay. In order to open this, you need the data access set to be defined. That is something that we have not defined. So we'll have to go and define the data access set. Data access set is basically which ledger you're giving access to.
Is there any particular role to view this navigation?
Yes, it's like you'd be assigning these data access sets to different roles, and depending on their um, rules that you're defining for them, they may have the option of switching between the different ledgers as well. So as you can see here, this one is SP Infusion Ledger Canada. So the ledger set name is SP Infusion Ledger. It gives you access to all the ledgers within all the values within the SP Infusion Canada. Similarly, if you go to the next one, for every ledger, you will get a default data access set for that particular ledger. So you have one for US and you have one for Canada. This US one will give you access to the US ledger and all values within that. If you want a common one, you can define one, let's say SP Infusion, and you can give access to both the ledgers. So one through that one particular data access set, the person will get access to both. Let's try that. Now this SP, this default ledger is not mandatory. So, but you could have one. And here, once you come to this access data set, so I'm giving access to US and Canada to this data access set. And I can create multiple combinations as per my requirement. If I have 3, 4 ledgers, I can go into 2 or 3 different ledgers based on which I can drive the access. non-required ones. These were the, by default, those were the required ones. Along with that, these are different setups related to the ledger, which we'll see in our ledger sessions. And business, let's just go back and look at the business. We looked at the business units. Now, along with the business units, the next step would be your reference data set. So we saw the different the SP. Okay. So now we have three different business units. Now against this, you may have to define a different reference data set as per your need. Okay. And let's say I go to one other here. SP US business USA business unit 1. So these are by default linked to your common reference data set. So in case you want to have your own reference data set, you can come and create and then assign it to your reference data set. Okay. Reference data set is a way of controlling access to the respective setups. Okay. So if you are defining, let's say, a common one, so all your definitions will be assigned to the common reference data set. If you want only one for USA, where all your setups will be defined and restricted, so you can define a US reference data set and assign it to the reference setups for US only. There, nobody else will get access to that. Other people in other geographies or other reference data sets who do not have access to the US reference data set, they will not be able to get access to it. All right. And just double check if there's any other mandatory setups. As far as the preliminary setups are concerned, we should be good with that. We have seen the different things, business units, that. So we good with this. So any other questions that you may have? Rakesh, you're good with it?
Yes, Saurabh.
can just complete anything else that we can think about. So what else? Other than the required task, there is another thing that we can look at here, which is the reporting currencies. Okay. So for reporting currencies, these are basically reports that you may generate, you may have to generate just for your reporting, for your ledgers against which you are going to be doing only reporting. Okay, you are not going to bring in any transactions, any data against which you are going to be having the different currency, different financial transactions. So in that case, this is where you would need to be defining your reporting currencies, and reporting currencies are also generally recorded. So once you go to the okay, so this is the infusion one reporting. One is for the ledger, one is for the ledger and sub and the primary and secondary ledger. So if you create a new one, so this would be the name of the reporting currency. Now, how do you want this reporting to be? Is it at the journal level? Is it at the subledger level? Is it at the balance level? If you want it at the journal level, then every journal will be converted over into the currency. And currency you can choose, since we have USD and Canadian dollar, let's choose GBP. And first open period and rest of it you can leave as it is. Revaluation, do you want journal approvals? This is as per your requirement. The default currency rates, usually if it is defaulting, we would leave it at the corporate one. Then there would be a need for entering the date. Do you want the transaction rate type to be retained? Yes. If it is missing, okay. So if do you want to use the last rate or report error? So depending on, if you don't want the error reporting, you might say that whatever is the last rate available, you just go and look it up. Look it up for how many days? Let's say for the last 30 days. You can make it 60 days also. You don't want too obsolete a date also. So here you can specify the journal source and the journal categories against which the conversion would be done. Okay, so you can just define one and keep it, or you may have other things also. And data conversion, first future period to convert journals. So from which date, whichever is our first period, we can keep it that way. So that would be used. Historical conversion, do you want to retain the original conversion rate type? Yes. So once you're done with this, so this reporting currency is basically helping you to generate your entire balance sheet in another currency. Assuming your chart of accounts calendar remains the same. In case any of these changes, you are better off defining a secondary ledger. Okay. So we complete our setups. We define the ledger sets also. So more or less we are done with our setup of the GL, the chart of accounts, the legal entities, business unit, value sets, values, all of those are now defined. We also defined our reporting currency, and we have defined our ledger sets. That's it. Okay. All right then. If there's no question, we can stop here today. We'll continue on Wednesday. And when you get a chance, please try out what we are doing.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Saurabh, as
Yes.
requested in the last class, could you give the steps,
Oh, I didn't email
and
you. Okay,
because
1 minute.
sometimes
Yeah.
what happens is if I want to read something, I need to go to the
Yes, yes,
entire
yes.
video. It takes long
Yes,
time.
yes. Let me send that.
Uh,
Actually, it
so,
missed my mind. 1 minute. Just hold on. Let me just
so
send it right away. Otherwise, I
At the start of at the start of the each module, if you send it, will be even more beneficial for us. So that when
Actually,
you yeah,
people, from the previous sessions, we don't have anything because, this was the first time I received the request.
okay,
So what we'll do is, as we do something now, wherever you think we need something, let me know. We'll stop. We'll do that in one slide, and then I can send it to you.
okay.
So we are connecting tomorrow as well, right? Saturday.
Oh, today's Friday, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot.
You told Wednesday, that's why I got confused.
No, my bad. I really need the weekend now. So tomorrow, what time do we do it? Same time?
9 o'clock will be fine. Yeah, same time.
What do you think, Santosh?
I don't have any issues. Anytime before 11, I'm good.
Okay. I think we can then do at 9. You are SANKUM0223, right?
Correct.
Rakesh, what is your email ID?
Jharakesh@outlook.com.
RAKESH outlook.com. I'm just sending you this. Huh? So today's, do you need anything?
Let me go through the video again. I might have to request you. If the setup is as simple as available in the Oracle docs, probably I may not require. Let me go through that.
Yeah, have a look. In case you need something, we can add it. Not an issue.
Perfect. Did you send now?
Yeah, I'm just uploading.
Okay.
Yes. It's,
Okay, Saurabh, then if
okay.
there's nothing
Yeah,
to discuss,
yeah,
a lot of.
you should reach it. You
Okay.
should receive it.
Okay.
It's already sent.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, guys.